Hey folks, it's Wade the Shoe Dog, and today we're gonna dive into the weeds again on footwear development. The material I'm going to show you today is from our new course on footwear development procedures and processes. So come over here to Shoemakers Academy, visit online courses, check out the course catalog, and you're going to find this course right here on the second row. This is footwear development processes and procedures. And this is it. Now, who is this? What is this course for? Who is it for? If you're a junior developer just getting started and you want to dig deep into material, sorry, not material, footwear development processes, like literally soup to nuts, how to create a schedule, what to look for when you evaluate a sample, um, pretty much the whole deal. It's about 4.5 hours. With this course, we're including the shoe material design guide because we got to talk about specifications. And in fact, actually, with this development course, we're including a bonus course, which is how to create footwear specifications. Those things go hand in hand, pretty important. So let's make sure that you're up to speed on that too. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit more of the blood and guts of what happens when you're doing footwear development. And so if you work for a larger company, you might have several product categories, whether you're doing running or outdoor, men's, women's, kids, whichever. And you're going to have a lot of projects. And you might have several factories. So you come out of your design review and maybe you've got 6 new projects that you need to allocate. So how do you go about making those decisions? And here we are. We have another checklist, and this is part of the course materials. But we're gonna start right now. We're gonna go through some of these things here. So first, is production capacity. Is the factory full or not? And in a lot of this too gets out to um, if you think the shoe is going to be a real monster and the factory is already mostly full, maybe you got to look somewhere else. You've got to understand the capacity, and not just production capacity, but development capacity. You might have a great factory, but if you bomb them with all your development projects at once, it's going to slow things down. Now, if you're a single source, then it's not a problem. But if you're a big company with lots of projects, you're going to have several partners. You got to think about production capacity and development capacity. Technical capability. Sometimes this is a no-brainer, right? You might have a factory that makes your running shoes and a factory that makes your sandals. Obvious what you're going to do. Kids' shoes also are special technique too. So you want to find the right factory that has the right technology, machines, and experience is critical. You'll find a factory at Alibaba that says we can do anything, and that's bovine tautology. That's not true, right? You really want to find the right factory for the right shoe. Of course, quality performance, right? If you have a challenging project that's a high end shoe, you've got to give it to your best factory. If you have a low end shoe that maybe is not so difficult to build, then you can bring it to your second best, right? Cost competitive, same situation. If you are working on a beautiful, spectacular, high tech shoe, you might take it to your high end factory. You know you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but the shoe is going to be better. It's going to be worth it. Your price point shoe got to go to that cheaper factory. Okay. Lead time and reliability. Same thing. If you think a shoe is going to be a monster, you want to give it to your most reliable factory. If it's a critical seasonal item, then you got to be careful about, if there's a factory that's always a little bit late, don't give it to them. Material and supplier access. So if you've got an outsole open at one factory, then whatever shoe follows on that same unit, pretty likely you're going to send it to the same factory. If you have good control over your moles, then it doesn't matter. But quite often, if a factory already has experience with that outsole unit, you just send the shoe down there, right? Okay. Compliance and certifications. If you're doing some safety shoe like a steel toe or a medical thing that has to have biological shield, whatever, non-slip, factories have certifications, and some factories are better at those kinds of shoes than others. So if it's a certified factory, like if you're gonna do say a Gore-Tex. Not every factory can make Gore-Tex. A factory has to be certified. So when you go shopping, you've got to find a Gore-Tex factory so you can make Gore-Tex shoes. Okay. Workforce skill level. Same thing. If you have a really complicated shoe, you want to make sure it's being made by an experienced workforce that can handle this kind of shoe. Now, I remember we had a great factory. Um, we were quite satisfied with their work, happy with how it went. And then we ordered a shoe with contrast stitching, like a black shoe with white stitching. Oh, and then you could see, whoa, this stitching is all over the place. You didn't notice it when the stitching was matching, but when it came time to make a contrast stitch, you were like, that factory cannot do that. Location and logistics. Now, if you're a multi-country operation like a Nike or an Adidas, you're making shoes in several countries and you're shipping them to hundreds of countries. Some of those production sites are not compatible with those other sites, whether it's a US tariff or a European most favored trade status, whatever. So you'll find there sometimes can be a tangle of the same shoe might actually be made in two different countries. It happens. Strategic fit and risk. So what's your relationship with the factory, right? If you have known these people for many, many years and you're confident and you have to ask a favor, well, here's a great example. I was working with a factory and we were sending them maybe 2 million pairs a year. So good business, great, fantastic, love it. We also had some shoes that were going to be very small production run, like 250 pairs. A real headache. If you take that 250 and give it to a factory that has very little business, they're going to look at that 250 and show you the hand, right? But if you go to that factory that already makes a couple million pairs for you, then it becomes a service item for them. I'm doing you a favor, right? They'll go ahead and make it for you, even though normally they would say, forget it. But if you have a lot of business with them, you can get those special favors. And that's why it's important for you to have a decent personal relationship with the factory. So if you run into problems, you can work out a compromise better. If you're a real hard case, the factory's not going to do you any favors. But if you have a good relationship and you let them win sometimes and they let you win sometimes, it all works great. Now, the last point number 11, and this sometimes can be the most important one, is how hungry is the factory? Right? Because a half-empty factory is losing money. Even a factory that's 75% full, maybe they may not be making their overhead. So some factories would rather be full with some items that maybe they're not that profitable, but if they can pay the workers, keep the lights on, and have that overhead support, because that factory costs money, whether it's making shoes or not, whether they've borrowed money for rent or utilities or whatever. So they want to keep that factory moving. So if a factory is really hungry, you do have to ask, why are they hungry? If there's no business there, is it because they're not a good factory? Or is it because, hey, US put tariffs on and all the USA orders disappeared, so the European brands can go woohoo and get in there? So gauging how hungry a factory is pretty important, because we've read this whole list of things. And you might have to compromise on some of those if you're having a hard time. This is ideal case, but you may have to compromise if this is the only factory you can find. Okay. So here we go. Let's just look at this diagram here. So we've got 6 new projects. We want to divide our allocation, right? So we're going to send these top 3 up to factory number 1. Factory number 2, we may dual source that one just so we can compare pricing. Now, why don't we dual source all of these? You don't really want to do that, because if you develop a lot of shoes with a factory and don't end up producing them, they are not going to be pleased with you and they might slow walk your stuff, right? So you want to, because development's expensive. Even though a factory is going to charge you, right? That's nominal to the cost, because not only is it the expense of the worker to do the work for you, but if they're developing a shoe that's not going anywhere, then that development capacity is essentially wasted. You follow? So, if you throw a lot of development and you make very few pieces, that's not sustainable. Okay. So So you wouldn't want to dual source everything. But hey, dual source one shoe just to get a feel for the price. Fantastic. Now, these other 3 shoes, same thing. We're going to send them to another factory, right? Factory number 2. And we might dual source another shoe to test another factory, right? Because you always want to be, if you've got enough business, you always want to be on the lookout for a new capability, whether it's a price or technical or geographic difference or just insurance policy. You want to be on the lookout. And here's the thing. If you only have one factory, then the factory has leverage over you. If you have 2 or 3, then you have leverage over them. And that's critically important when you start pushing for price concessions or, griping about quality, these other things. If they think they've got you by the neck, you don't have any leverage. But if you've got multiple factories out there, and factories, bless them, they're going to do everything they can to try to hold on to you. Some of that stuff may be kind of, shady. I mean, hey, I developed it for you. I'm not going to give you the pattern. Hey, who's the customer, right? It's got to be tough on. Got to be tough on that case. Anyways, hey folks, that is factory allocation. This you're going to find in our footwear development process and procedures. This list is going to be available on the website. So basically, there's a link in the description below. Come on over, check out the website. Our goal is to help everyone make shoes efficiently and with as little headache as possible. We, as a young brand, we don't want you to take your money and get into a lot of trouble. We help small brands all the time, whether we're training or finding you the right factory. So come on over to Shoemakers Academy and let's see if we can't get making shoes the right way. Okay. Thanks, folks. Bye.